issue that is very controversial in lung cancer, which is a maintenance therapy. So I'm going to speak on maintenance therapy in general, but I'm going to concentrate actually on the current use of continuation maintenance therapy in non-small cell lung cancer. Okay. This is my disclosure and the agenda. We're going to speak about the introduction on maintenance therapy in advanced non-small cell lung cancer, the effect of switch, maintenance therapy in non-small cell lung cancer, chemotherapy and TKI, the continuation maintenance, and actually the Paramount study, and the targeted maintenance therapy, which is mostly was covered by Professor Ahmed. As you all know, we now have reached a plateau for the cytotoxic chemotherapy in advanced non-small cell lung cancer since the pivotal trial of Dr. Joanna Schiller and Dr. Kelly and Dr. Scagliotti that proved that the PFS was very low and the median overall survival, whatever you give of chemotherapy, will not be excess than 10 months. So, we need to improve this. And improving this is really the objective of maintenance therapy. We need to improve the overall survival, we need to increase the duration of the disease control, and we need to maintain tolerability to our drugs. So maintenance therapy is a new treatment approach in advanced non-small cell lung cancer. As you see, we used to do watch and wait after giving like 4 or 6 cycles of chemotherapy, but now you can give the maintenance therapy aiming to improve your PFS and then to improve the overall survival. So what are the types of maintenance therapy in advanced non-small cell lung cancer? Actually, we have continuation therapy, which is just prolonging the platinum doublet chemotherapy that proved to be toxic and usually is not used. The continuation maintenance therapy, which is continuation of the non-platinum agent used in doublet chemotherapy, such as paclitaxel, gemcitabine, and more recently, pemetrexed. And the switch maintenance with the introduction of a new cytotoxic agent after receiving like 4 cycles of chemotherapy, and this agent may be chemotherapy or targeted therapy like erlotinib. Targeted maintenance therapy, the triplet induction therapy followed of maintenance with the same targeted agent as the studies of ECOG, FLEX, and AVAIL, etc. So what is the effect of treatment for the switch maintenance in non-small cell lung cancer advanced cases? This is a list of the studies that has been done, and you see clearly, so whether you do switch maintenance therapy with chemotherapy or switch maintenance therapy with EGFR, TKI, you will find that all of them, or mostly all of them, will give you a good PFS, like statistically significant than placebo, but the median overall survival is not changing except in 2 studies. One of them is the Cellulono study, which is a GMAN study of pemetrexed as switch maintenance therapy, and the Saturn study was erlotinib after 4 cycles of chemotherapy as maintenance therapy. So switch maintenance therapy, if you look to the Capuzzo study, which is the Saturn study, and Cellulono study, which is using pemetrexed after combination chemotherapy that was gemcitabine and platinum, will give you a PFS that is statistically significant difference and the overall survival, which is also statistically significant difference. So the switch maintenance pemetrexed, which is this GMAN study, we all know about it. It was pemetrexed as a maintenance therapy after 4 cycles of chemotherapy versus placebo, and the primary endpoint was PFS. And you see here the result of the GMAN study. Clearly, the progression-free survival and overall survival were statistically significant in favor of using the pemetrexed as maintenance therapy. And here you see the switch maintenance therapy, especially in the non-squamous type, when you see like 5-month difference in non-squamous histology when you use pemetrexed as switch therapy after using chemotherapy. What about the TKI? The TKI, according to Medscape, there are 3 to 4 studies using TKI inhibitors as maintenance therapy after chemotherapy. The Saturn study, which is erlotinib after 4 cycles of chemotherapy. The INFORM study, which is gefitinib after 4 cycles of chemotherapy. And the ORTC study, which was gefitinib also after 4 cycles of chemotherapy. And the PFS in all of them was statistically significant in favor of the TKI inhibitor, but overall survival did not change. And this was because of the taking the drug again after failure of therapy. So it is the crossover which was the cause for death. The only one that escaped from this was the Saturn study, so it proved to have an overall survival. This is again the 3 or 4 studies that were done with the TKI, proving that the p-value was significant in all of them, and the overall survival was significant in the Saturn trial. So the erlotinib switch maintenance therapy, which is the maintenance using erlotinib, which is the Saturn trial, here is 4 cycles of chemotherapy and followed by erlotinib versus placebo. And here you see the PFS statistically significant in favor of using this erlotinib, and overall survival also significant in favor of this. Again, the PFS when you have an EGFR mutation, so it is very increased. This is the ORTC trial using also the gefitinib after 4 cycles of chemotherapy, and we had 40% reduction in developing progressive disease of PFS, but not the overall survival. And you will see that overall survival, the median overall survival was 0.2, and this was done in Europe, and also for the INFORM trial that was done in Far East. Again, the p-value for overall survival was also 0.2. So what is the effect for continuation maintenance in non-small cell lung cancer? Why to do continuation maintenance? Potential advantages of continuation maintenance approach. We save a drug for subsequent treatment illness, and tolerance to maintenance drug is known from induction treatment, and to maximize the potential of the drug used in first line. So this is a list of continuation maintenance with chemotherapy, as you see. And again, the hazard ratio is in favor for all of them for the PFS, but when you come to the overall survival, it was only the Paramount study using the pemetrexed as continuation therapy after pemetrexed and the platinum that had a statistically significant difference in favor of pemetrexed. So for example, here, gemcitabine, we have the p-value that was in some studies PFS statistically significant, and others that were not having statistically significant difference. And when you come to the overall survival, no study proved any statistical significant difference. When you come to the Paramount study, first they have done like a pilot study, and this pilot study was done in our area in the Middle East, and Dr. Nabil Mubarak was the first author on it, and it was in the BMC, and this was the same background of the Paramount, was to give pemetrexed cisplatin first for 4 cycles, and then to give the pemetrexed versus best supportive care. So in our study it was a little number of cases, it was 108 cases, and also it was randomized 1-to-1. So the results were not statistically significant difference as regards overall survival. But when you come to the Paramount, that was the same. It was a phase 3 study of maintenance pemetrexed plus best supportive care versus placebo plus best supportive care immediately following induction treatment with pemetrexed plus cisplatin for advanced non-squamous non-small cell lung cancer. So it is the same, and the idea is the same. And here you see the design of the study, and here you see the background of the study that we have already. Most patients are non-small cell lung cancer advanced cases. Platinum-based combination is given as a first line. Pemetrexed has demonstrated efficacy in treating advanced non-squamous non-small cell lung cancer, whether in combination with cisplatin or alone. And maintenance therapy was used to prolong tumor response or stable disease. And pemetrexed maintenance has not been studied following pemetrexed cisplatin at this time. So the study objectives were the progression-free survival first, and then the secondary objectives were overall survival, objective tumor response, patient-reported outcomes, resource utilization, adverse events, etc. And this is Paramount study with the final patient disposition. They started with more than 1,000 patients that were screened, and at the end, during maintenance therapy, they had 2-to-1 randomization for the pemetrexed arm versus the placebo, 359 cases versus 180. And here is the characteristics of the patients that are more or less balanced between the two groups. And this is the PFS and the overall survival. And you see clearly that the PFS was statistically significant in favor of using pemetrexed as maintenance therapy, and the hazard ratio was 0.62, while in the overall survival was also statistically significant in favor of using this pemetrexed. So the difference was like double, because in the placebo it was PFS 2.8 and the pemetrexed it was 4.1. So the median PFS according to the response to induction, whether you have pemetrexed, whether you give after induction and you couldn't get partial response or complete response or stable disease, it is active in all of them. And this is compared to example for the Saturn study, where it is more in the stable disease cases and not significant for the PR and CR cases. And this may be also in the GMEN study that was also more for the stable disease cases. So you look here, you see the CR, PR, and stable disease, all of them. And also all subgroups get benefited from using pemetrexed cisplatin. And the final overall survival, whether from induction or you calculate it from randomization, both of them were statistically significant. These are the subgroups by CR/PR induction response or by stable disease induction response. What about toxicity? Toxicity, we have all been using Alimta, and we know that what is bothering us, as Professor Yasser said, is the fatigue or actiniia, and others like anemia or neutropenia. So in Paramount study, the post-discontinuation therapy in eligible patients is evident, comparing the pemetrexed versus placebo, and you will find that most of them have received similar drugs after discontinuation. Did Paramount assess the quality of life? Okay, yes, quality of life was present in the study, and it was calculated, and you see the difference between the population-based index score during induction and during treatment. And also you see that quality of life and the safety of Paramount here you see that there is no much difference between the cases that had received the placebo or received the pemetrexed as regards the quality of life, so there is no toxicity or detrimental effect. This led to a low rate of discontinuation due a less rate of adverse events. Comparing this quality of life to the other continuation maintenance therapies that were used before, like vinorelbine, docetaxel, erlotinib, or gemcitabine, you will find the quality of life either was not reported in the result of these studies, or it was just better pain or something like hemolysis. So the conclusions for the Paramount met its primary endpoint by showing significantly improved PFS in patients treated with pemetrexed continuation maintenance therapy as compared to placebo. The highly significant PFS results demonstrate that pemetrexed continuation maintenance therapy is effective treatment for patients with non-squamous non-small cell lung cancer. Pemetrexed had a well-tolerated safety profile similar to the previous pemetrexed maintenance trial in non-small cell lung cancer, and in Paramount, the overall survival was seen across all patient subgroups, including tumor responses. So other than performance status, which is very important before deciding to give maintenance therapy, or clinical parameter clearly defined as subgroup more likely to benefit from pemetrexed continuation maintenance. So Paramount is the first study to show continuation maintenance has an impact on the disease course of advanced non-small cell lung cancer, including PFS and overall survival, and supporting a change in the treatment paradigm in this setting. Okay, I'm not going to speak about the targeted therapy because it was covered by Professor Ahmed Hameda, the Avapar, the ECOG, and but I want to give you just the NCCN guidelines because I don't have much time. So the NCCN guidelines, very recent one, will tell you that after chemotherapy, 4 to 6 cycles of chemotherapy, and evaluation of your tumor response, if you have a response or a stable disease, you can do continuation maintenance therapy with bevacizumab, as you show in the ECOG trial, carboplatin plus bevacizumab, and it is category 1, and you can do it. But take care of the toxicity of bevacizumab and the eligibility criteria of the patient. The second one, which is category 1, is to use pemetrexed as maintenance therapy, and here is the Paramount study, which we are saying about that give you PFS and overall survival benefit, or to use bevacizumab plus pemetrexed like what is in the Avapar trial, but Avapar trial for the overall survival did not reach statistically significant difference and was more toxic than using the pemetrexed alone for maintenance therapy. Gemcitabine is not category 1. If you use switch therapy, then you should use switch maintenance is category 2B, pemetrexed or erlotinib or close observation. And I would like to say that if you have EGFR inhibitor, if you have EGFR mutation, go for erlotinib. Do not think of pemetrexed or bevacizumab or any other drug. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Rabah, for your excellence, as usual. Your excellent presentation, and the floor is open for discussion. Any comment or discussion, please, or questions, I mean. Yes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rabah. I'd like to ask about the decision of maintenance therapy, either continuation or switch. It can be dependent on response. I mean, that good response, we can continue,
Yes, it can depend on response, because if you have only stable disease, you wish to change what you are using. So you prefer to give like another drug. So if you go for chemotherapy, gemcitabine, cisplatin, and then you go for Alimta or pemetrexed, or you give erlotinib, this is switch therapy. But if you use like pemetrexed, cisplatin, and you see the results of the Paramount study, then you can use it for PR, CR, or stable disease.
Professor Rabab, usually we stop at 4 cycles or 4 to 6.
Most of the studies have been done 4 cycles.
Yes.
But if you have a patient that had received 6 cycles, you can give him maintenance
Yes,
therapy.
4 to 6.
Yeah.
Anyway, according to your experience, is there any parameters to judge the ideal candidate or the ideal patient to be on maintenance therapy?
The idea is present in the background of the studies done for maintenance therapy, but the question is the patient is going to tolerate this maintenance therapy or not, and if he is going to refuse it, because sometimes the patient will receive this 4 to 6 cycles and tell you, no, I'm not going to receive more. So this patient will be put under follow-up. But if the patient tells you, no, I have a disease and you are going to stop me treatment, what shall I do? The disease will increase. So you tell him, yes, there is maintenance therapy, so on, so on, so on. And the performance status is very important.
Performance. And do you believe in the combination of, according to the data we have, the combination of Alimta and Avastin as maintenance or not yet?
Alimta and?
Pemetrexed. I mean bevacizumab or Avastin.
Like the AVA-parallel trial,
Yes.
you mean? It's for the PFS. It was very significant, and I don't know, for the survival, it did not reach statistically significant, and toxicity was more.
Any further question? Anyway, actually we came to the end. And before leaving, I would like to thank the presenters, Professor Rabab Ghaffar, Professor Ahmed Hamada, and the organizers